Welcome back to Inside the MAC. Week 1 is in the books. We got a game tonight, but it's not MACtion. All the MAC games have been concluded. Quick rundown of scores. Ohio falls to Rutgers 31-34. Bowling Green over Lafayette 26-7. Wyoming beat Akron 10-0. Minnesota beat Buffalo 23-10. Wisconsin over Miami of Ohio 17-0. Michigan State over Western 23-6. Central, the only one I got wrong for the week, over San Jose State 16-14. Purdue beat Ball State 31-0. Kent State finally getting a win over Merrimack 21-17. Toledo falls to Kentucky 24-16. Temple beat UMass 42-10. NIU over Holy Cross 19-17. And Texas State over Eastern Michigan 52-27. 12-13 for my predictions in Week 1. I'll take it, and I will always take being wrong if it means a MAC school wins, which we saw Central over San Jose State. A couple interesting things about that game. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We're going down the list, looking at the Ohio-Rutgers game. Here's a couple things I took away from it. Parker Navarro looks legit. All right, he had 3 touchdowns, 239 through the air, ran for 93, and ran another one in. No fumbles for him on the day. The defense got some work to do. They struggled stopping the run game. Rutgers finished with 147 yards on the ground, averaged 4 yards a carry. But overall, Ohio looks legitimate. Ohio looks very, very good. I think they can do some things this year. Bowling Green, Lafayette, not much to get excited about or really take away from that game. Kind of went about as how I expected it to be. The offense, starts a little slow a lot of times early in the seasons. I think that Bowling Green is going to be that middle of the road, possibly slightly better. Wyoming-Akron was an interesting game to watch. Not much excitement. Ben Finley looked rough. 16-38, 139, and an interception. -4 rushing yards. Not much wowed. The defense looked okay. I don't think Wyoming is a stellar offense by any stretch of the imagination. They put up a lot of yards, just didn't get a lot of points to show for it. What I will say, though, is I think that this Akron team's going to have to figure it out. Offensively, just looked rough, and it's like we said early in the season, they might figure it out. I don't know. Buffalo, Minnesota, that game was close for a bit and then pulled away at the end. I still do think Buffalo's going to be a good team. I think that was maybe a worrisome game if you're a Minnesota Gopher fan because they thought they were going to roll that one, and they didn't. Miami of Ohio, Wisconsin, that's the one. Miami of Ohio, obviously, if you've been listening for a bit, I think DeQuan Finn is the player in the MAC. He struggled, 9 of 18, 83 yards, threw 2 interceptions, ran it 12 times for 13 yards. Here's the thing. I think Wisconsin's defense is very good. I also think that Miami of Ohio's defense looked pretty impressive to me, too. Silas Walters with the interception. They held Wisconsin a bunch of times. I mean, you look at the team stats. Wisconsin had a decent amount of yards, 353, but that's not that impressive for a Big Ten over a MAC school. That's kind of where I went with that. But 117 yards from the Miami of Ohio offense, yeesh. I still hold in high regards what they can do this season. Playing at Wisconsin's never an easy thing. Western Michigan, Michigan State was an interesting game. Really was 23-0. Western got that pick 6 at the end. I think Western looked a little better than I expected, and I also think Michigan State, there's been a lot of hype coming out about them. I don't think they lived up to it, and I think part of that is kind of play calling, and they got to get the ball a little bit more to Nick Marsh, or at least try to. But it's week 1. I don't think they wanted to show their hand too much. Now we get to the Central San Jose State game. All right, Central Michigan obviously bringing in a new staff. Army's former offensive line coach, he's now under the helm, getting a win in his first game. Here's the thing, they looked impressive. They started out the game, I think they were up 14-0 early in the game, and maybe it wasn't that. They scored quickly, 10-0, excuse me. It was 10-0. They started off the game hot. I think they were about to score again. They kind of ran a 2-quarterback thing a little bit, not really. Angel Flores ran the ball more. Lavas was in there more to throw it. They didn't want to throw the ball at all. But 50 carries, 247 yards. That's an Army offensive line coach coming in to call plays. I was actually watching with an O-line coach that I coach with. He was getting juiced up over their offense. I think that was a statement win. I think Central Michigan will rise in the power rankings for the MAC in my world. They look good. I don't know how good San Jose State is. They try to do a lot of things on offense. We're struggling to get anything consistent going, but you never know. Purdue just whopped Ball State. Kyle Kelly's first game, 10 of 16, 87 yards. He ran it 22 times for 63 yards. Here's the thing that I take away from this Ball State game is, boy, they are relying heavy on Kyle Kelly. He's going to have to do it all. And let me tell you, 22 carries for a quarterback in a game, that's not sustainable for a season. Absolutely not. So it'll be interesting to see if they kind of adjust from that, but it was interesting. It was not a way I would have gone about that. Kent State finally in the W, in the win column. That was a big win, I think, for them. Over Merrimack, who is by no stretch of the imagination a stellar team. And so I got Kent State winning 2 games this year, one of them against UMass. Yeah, I mean, they're not anything too impressive or crazy out of the Kent State camp from that game. That one I was watching pretty closely just because of the fact that I liked the spread on it. I thought they were going to maybe put a little bit more of a pounding on Merrimack, but Merrimack did not go away. But when it came down to it, Kent State held on. Got the W. Now, Toledo. I think everyone can now say Toledo is the real deal. We'll talk about that in segment 2 a little bit about what Toledo's got to do to possibly, maybe do something in the postseason. Tucker Gleason looked good. Tranum looked good. Vander Ross, the third, 7 catches, 88 yards, score, looked good. Their defense was doing great things. This Toledo team could be something special. And we're looking at the Temple UMass games, kind of similar to Ball State. I think UMass is the worst team in the MAC, and it kind of showed a little bit. Not that Temple's taking anything away from them. They played a great game, but it was ugly. It was ugly. Northern Illinois scared me a bit with their win over Holy Cross. I don't know how much stake I put in NIU. Obviously, week 1, it's tough to put stake in a lot of things. Texas State, 52-27 with Eastern, kind of similar situation. I wasn't super impressed with Noah Kim. I thought he threw it around all right, but I thought he made some bad decisions in big moments. But that is what that is. I think at the end of the day, that's kind of what we're looking into and what we're seeing in week 1. There's only so much stake you can put in week 1. There's the overreactions, and that's what this was all about here. Can they maybe do something crazy and possibly go to the college football playoff? Obviously, that's the big goal. If any MAC team can do it, I think it's Toledo. They got to win out, though. I would have said last week, yep, you got to go 12-0. You got to go 12-0. I think this loss against Kentucky, we'll see how Kentucky's season shapes out. I wouldn't say it's a bad loss. I wouldn't say it's a quality loss yet. You could make that argument at some point, but you never know. Overall, they have to win out. They got next week home against Western Kentucky. Now, Western Kentucky looked very good against North Alabama, but it's also an FCS school, new to Division I, and we'll see. We'll see how, Brent Dearman's doing some great things down there, but it takes time to build a program. But Western Kentucky looked fierce. I will say that. Now, I think Morgan State, they win. I think Washington State, they win. They also have a very favorable MAC schedule. The one that will scare you the most on that, if you're a Toledo fan, would be Miami of Ohio. And then Central Michigan could honestly make even a case for being that scary team, too. So it'll be interesting. I do think they can win out. And the reason that I think that could make the argument of getting them into the college football playoff is there's going to be a group of 5, which is now a group of 6 team that makes it. Looking at the American Conference, Memphis I thought looked really good. Navy, it's going to be tough for Navy, Army to ever get in one of those. But Memphis is one of those teams in the American you look at. Then you go over to Conference USA, Western Kentucky, another team you could possibly make the argument for. But here's the thing. If Toledo beats Western Kentucky, now they're out of the race. They're out of the conversation. Liberty, I don't know if Liberty is going to be the same team that they were in years past, so we'll see. But that's another one you have to keep your eye on. And you go to the Mountain West. I think UNLV is a good team. I think I might have put their stake a little higher than I possibly could have with Boise losing. Them starting out 0-1. I think that gives, and let me tell you, it was not a pretty game. Lost to South Florida 34-7. So that's a team that, made it in last year. see them returning. Pac-12, if once again Washington State, if that's who Toledo beats, well, then they're already in that conversation over them. App State, James Madison, two teams that I think you can make a case for. But here's why I go back to what I was saying earlier, why I don't think they need to go undefeated, why 11-1 could get them in, because the teams that they might be competing for, they might have wins over. If they finish out 11-1, they will have wins over that. Now, I think the committee will do everything possible to not have a MAC team in it. I believe that. I think they want to put a Mountain West team in. I think if Washington State has a great season, they're going to want to put them into it. The MAC, they're going to try to avoid. Because to me, it's kind of a group of five and then the MAC. The MAC is seen in a lot of college football worlds as a gimmick conference, all right? They got the MACtion, they got the Tuesday night, the Wednesday night games in November. People love it. They love the MAC. They love those games. But I don't know if there's much respect to them where, last year you look at NIU beating Notre Dame. Everyone loves that. Everyone's excited about that. I don't think there was real concern or like, oh, Northern Illinois, can they make it to the playoff? They got the little fun ranking and didn't finish out the year very strong. But I think Toledo is a legitimately good team. Now, you go to the highlight for their little video that they show. They put the compilation of the highlights. Didn't show really any Toledo highlights. In a 24-16 loss, that is what that is. Taking a look at the box score, the title that came out of it was, I think the way they phrased it was, ran all over. Wildcats run all over Toledo in victory. And, partially that is true. Kentucky did, 220 yards on the ground on 43 carries, 5.1 per attempt. Toledo, who normally is a pretty decent rushing team, struggled to run the ball at times. They threw the ball pretty well. I thought Tucker Gleason, the interception was tough. I thought he played a good game. But you're going against an SEC school, and maybe not the blue bloods of the SEC. You're not your Georgias, and I'm not even going to say Alabama right now because they looked rough. But at the same time, you're going on the road to a school that has historically been more dominant than you. They have a bigger recruiting pool they can get access to, more money for NIL, and you went out there and it's a one-score game. And if you're a Kentucky fan, I know you don't feel good about this. As a Tennessee fan, I feel good about this. But, once again, week one stuff, I still think if Toledo has the path to go 11-1. They absolutely do. Can they do it? Will they do it? Those are two different conversations now. So, I like it. I like the chances. We're going to be on the playoff watch all the time because currently, as it stands in the MAC, there weren't a lot of victories this weekend. So if you're going after it, it has to be an undefeated team. Well, your fate lies in Bowling Green, Central, Kent State, and Northern Illinois because the rest of the MAC lost. But you never know. We're talking power rankings, who moved up, who moved down. Well, here's what I got. At the top and the bottom, it's looking the same. Toledo still is hanging at number 1. Ball State, Kent State, UMass, that's going to be your 11, 12, 13. Now we got some shakeups. Ohio, in my mind, jumped Miami of Ohio. I thought they looked good. They looked better. I think Miami of Ohio's got some things to figure out. I think they will figure them out. But going off of just week 1, that's what we got to go off of here. I think Ohio looked a lot better. Parker Navarro looked really, really good. And I think they might be looking to come back and do that. Buffalo stays at 4. Bowling Green stays at 5. Central's going up 4. And that might be an overreaction, I understand. But they won a game I thought they weren't going to win, and they looked good doing it. They struggled, obviously, after the initial first quarter. I think they kind of fell off a bit going away from that. But defensively, they look solid. And I think they're going to be able to do things on offense. Where I get worried about Central, I don't know if they can come back in a game. If we see them in a situation where they're going to have to be throwing it around, I don't know if they're going to be that team. Western, in my opinion, went up 2. NIU falls down 2. They're sitting at 8. Eastern Michigan fell 1 to 9, and Akron fell 3. And you could say that's maybe an overreaction on Akron. They held the team to 10. They didn't score, and they didn't look like they were going to score at any point in that game. I thought Ben Finley looked rough. And for a guy, the conversation with week 1 is offenses normally start slow, defenses are starting better. That's true most of the time. I know there's different faces around him, but Ben Finley is a seasoned veteran. Kind of expected him to be a little more polished, and maybe that'll come when the season goes on. But your top to bottom, it goes Toledo, Ohio, Miami of Ohio, Buffalo, Bowling Green, Central Michigan, Western Michigan, Northern Illinois, Eastern Michigan, Akron, Ball State, Kent State, and UMass as we head into week 2, which the first week 2, let's see who in the MAC has the first game. There is a Friday game, Northern Illinois, Maryland. Currently Northern Illinois is a plus 18.5 spread there. Not looking promising. Kent State got Texas Tech. That Saturday slate is going to be interesting. We'll talk more about some of the things. I think what's going to be a real tell about the top between Ohio and Miami of Ohio. Miami of Ohio takes on Rutgers. That could be an interesting and possibly a telling game. Western Michigan, North Texas, that game could be exciting. Bryant and UMass. Can UMass maybe get that W? I don't know. West Virginia, Ohio could be a good one. And then the Toledo, Western Kentucky, that's the game. I have circled the one I'm most excited about, 7 p.m. It's on ESPN Plus in Toledo. Tickets are currently as low as $28. But Toledo is a 6.5-point favorite in that one. In the Ohio-West Virginia game, betting lines obviously opened. West Virginia is only a 2.5-point favorite. Boy, could we see some fun things. Got lots to cover this week, lots to talk about. That is your breakdown from week 1 here on Inside the MAC.